Callum, the father, did not show up. Amid the sneers and ridicule from the crowd, I forced myself to smile and ended the banquet. When leaving, he accidentally overheard the conversation between Callum and his friend in the next box. His friend teased him, "Callum, aren't you afraid that Elodie will divorce you if you come out to play? My friends all know that I have misophobia." But Callum is now kissing a young girl passionately. Speaking of me, Callum's tone was full of impatience. After Elodie gave birth, I thought she was dirty and never touched her again. Stress has to be released. Don't worry, she can't leave me alone now that we have a child. Callum knew that I was soft-hearted and didn't dare to make a fuss, but I rushed in holding my daughter and overturned the table. As I moved, the wine bottles on the table shattered to the ground. The wine mixed with glass fragments splashed all over everyone, but no one present dared to speak. It wasn't until the young girl in his arms gasped in pain that Callum noticed the blood splattered on the girl's arm by the glass fragments. "Elodie, what the hell are you fussing about?" Callum looked at me with suppressed anger, and unknowingly had already protected the girl behind him. This kind of worried and concerned look was once exclusive to Callum towards me, but now, Callum has given his tenderness to me to another woman. My daughter in my arms didn't cry when I overturned the table. But when she heard Callum's growl, she suddenly burst into tears. As his daughter's biological father, his first reaction when he heard her crying was not to worry or comfort her, but to frown impatiently. "Sign-Yan is still so young. Why did you bring the child to a place like this?" From the moment I walked in, Callum didn't care if I heard their conversation or not. After all, Callum felt that I couldn't live without him in the past, and now that I have a child, I dare not make a fuss. Facing Callum's disdain, I raised my hand and slapped him hard in the face. The crisp sound of applause echoed throughout the box. Callum's sarcastic mouth froze on his face, and he looked at me in disbelief. Seeing this, the friends around hurried over to mediate. "Elodie, you're still holding the child. Let's talk about it nicely." Who had been hiding behind Callum also poked her head out and spoke softly. "Elodie, don't get me wrong, Callum and I really didn't do anything." Although the girl was explaining, she raised her swollen lips and her eyes were full of provocation. Only then did I see the young girl's face clearly. At first glance, I recognized the young girl in front of me. She was Callum's new secretary, Aria. Heard the name from Callum when I was 6 months pregnant. At that time, Callum was leaning on my chest with a smile on his face. "Elodie, the new intern at the company looks a lot like you when you were young." Callum and I met and fell in love during our freshman year of college, and it has been 10 years since we got married and had a child. At home, he obeyed me in everything, so even if he mentioned other women in front of me, I didn't think much about it. On the day I gave birth, Callum was so heartbroken that he couldn't breathe, and he insisted on accompanying me despite the doctor's advice. Callum would throw away our 10-year relationship just because of the blood and dirt he saw during the birth. After Elodie gave birth, I thought she was so dirty. These words haunted me like a ghost, chilling my entire body. The atmosphere was silent for a moment, and everyone laughed it off. "Elodie, this is all a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding." Callum obviously lost his patience and looked me up and down with disgust. "That's enough. You still think it's not embarrassing enough?" Today is Sign-Yan's full moon banquet. I put on delicate makeup and wore a royal blue cheongsam. On the day of delivery, my mother-in-law found out that I was giving birth to a daughter and turned away without even looking at me, let alone offering to give me money or help take care of me during the confinement period. So for over a month, my figure has not fully recovered, and even the most delicate makeup cannot hide the fatigue under my eyes. Callum not only didn't feel the slightest bit of pity for the suffering I had endured since giving birth, but was filled with disgust. Seeing this, I took a deep breath, still feeling indignant for my daughter in my arms. "Callum, let's not talk about anything else for now. Today is Sign-Yan's full moon banquet. Why didn't you come?" Faced with my questioning, Gu Sign-Yan touched his nose guiltily and remained silent for a long time. Aria immediately responded, "Elodie, Callum is accompanying us on the project today, so I really can't spare the time. Elodie, you are a housewife, so naturally you don't know how important this project is to Callum." Aria's words were full of contempt for me as a housewife. Friends also helped to cover for him, and even Callum said in a deep voice, "If it weren't for supporting you and our daughter, I wouldn't be so busy. It's just a full moon banquet. Do you have to make such a scene?" Callum's voice was as cold as ice, completely breaking the last line of defense in my heart. I thought that even if Callum had changed his mind now, my daughter was still his own flesh and blood. Callum's family is not a wealthy family in City A. They run several businesses and can at least allow their daughter to live a rich life. No mother would have the heart to let her daughter suffer in a single-parent family. So even after knowing about Callum's infidelity, I still didn't think about breaking up at this moment. My heart was calmer than ever before. "Callum, let's get a divorce. According to the premarital agreement, I don't want any money, but your thoughts must be mine." After saying that, I ignored everyone's shocked looks and left the bar box without looking back. When I left, I could faintly hear a conversation between several people behind me. "Callum, if you don't pursue Elodie, what if Elodie really divorces you?" Callum's tone was still somewhat disdainful. "Elodie's divorce is just talk. Her patriarchal parents didn't want her when she got married. If she leaves me, where can she go with her child?" Another voice asked in a discordant voice. "Callum, if you don't love Elodie, why don't you get a divorce?" Callum sneered at this. "She went through hell to give birth to my child. I wouldn't be so heartless as to let her live on the street." The voices gradually faded away, and I no longer cared about what they said afterwards. With a cold face, I rushed home with my daughter in my arms. After returning home, I coaxed the little one in my arms for a long time and finally he fell into a deep sleep. I finally had time to pack my luggage. When I packed my luggage, the door was kicked open. The man who came was Callum. He was drunk and even his snow-white tie had a few ambiguous red marks. The first time he saw me, Callum untied his tie impatiently and asked me in an imperative tone to bring him some hangover soup. Since giving birth, Callum always comes home late. The person who once held me in the palm of his hand gradually began to get used to ordering me around. At that time, I just thought that Callum must be worried about the company's affairs, so he became more and more impatient with me. As long as he doesn't cheat or cross the line, I will choose to forgive him for the sake of our 10 years of relationship. Now that I've seen Callum cheat on me, I will never deceive myself again. Callum, who was slumped on the sofa. "Callum, you didn't think I was joking when I asked you for a divorce, did you?" Under Callum's stunned look, I slammed the divorce agreement I had prepared long ago on the table. A hint of panic finally appeared in Callum's eyes. "Elodie, I was wrong today, but I had to defend Aria because of my friends here. Besides, Sign is your biological daughter. Do you really have the heart to let her live on the streets with you?" Hearing Callum's anxious tone, if you didn't know him well, you would think he loved this family very much. But I had already seen through Callum's hypocrisy. He didn't want to divorce. Not because he still loved me, but because he didn't want to bear the stigma of abandoning his wife and children. Missing you was the name he and I gave to me when I was pregnant. Callum was hugging me at that time, his eyes sparkling. "Whether it's a boy or a girl, it's called Sign, which means the true love between us is eternal." Everything that happened a few months ago seemed like a mirage, and I finally saw clearly that Callum's true love could not stand the test. At this moment, Sign, who was still sleeping soundly, suddenly cried out. I hurried to the room and touched my daughter's hot forehead. At this point, I couldn't care less about the argument with Callum and begged him to take my daughter to the hospital. Perhaps Callum still had some conscience, as he quickly put on his coat and told the driver to take Sign and me to the hospital. While walking down the stairs, the phone in Callum's pocket suddenly vibrated. The moment he saw the caller ID, Callum avoided his gaze and ran to the side holding the phone. Faintly, I heard a soft female voice. "Callum, my stomach hurts. Can you stay with me?" Callum's fingers turned pale as he held the phone. He hung up the phone in a hurry and ran out the door. Almost subconsciously, I reached out and grabbed the corner of Callum's clothes, my eyes more fierce than ever before. "Callum, Sign is your biological daughter. If anything happens to her, I will never let you go." Callum hesitated for a moment, then assured, "Don't worry, I just asked Uncle Wang to help send a car. I won't ignore my daughter." I breathed a sigh of relief and walked out the door. but from a distance I saw Callum get into Uncle Wang's car and drive off in one direction. As for the car that Callum asked me to send to me, it did not show up for a long time. The daughter in my arms was twitching due to the high fever and kept spitting up milk. I hurriedly took out my cell phone to hail a taxi, but the villa was in a remote location and no driver was willing to take the order. Helplessly, I ran all the way with my daughter in my arms. The rain splashed all over me, but I still used my coat to protect my daughter and ran to the bus stop not far away. It's almost there. You can get a taxi as long as you get to the bus stop. At the critical moment, I accidentally tripped over a stone, and my daughter in my arms didn't even have the strength to cry. At this moment, my hatred for Callum and Aria has reached its peak. Just then, a black car slowly stopped in front of me. Without waiting for me to react, the man got out of the car and pulled me up from the ground. Through the dim light, I recognized the person in front of me at a glance. It was Ju Tingshan, my top student in high school. Before I could say anything, Ju Tingshan took my daughter and me into the car and rushed to the hospital. Fortunately, she was sent to the hospital in time and her daughter was out of danger. I finally breathed a sigh of relief and looked at the man next to me who was also worried. Ju Ting looked at me deeply, with emotions in his eyes that I couldn't understand. After a long silence, Ju Tingshan said in a hoarse voice, "Elodie, you've lost a lot of weight since you were in high school. 1,000 words cannot compare to one sentence. You are thinner than before." I suppressed the tears that were about to well up and nodded. When I was in high school, the first person I liked was Ju Tingshan. As the top student in the class with excellent character and academic performance and the school hunk, there is almost no girl who is not attracted to Ju Tingshan. This naturally includes me. But ever since I saw Ju Tingshan throw my confession letter into the trash can with my own eyes, I completely gave up on the idea and gradually became estranged from Ju Tingshan. After graduating from high school, Ju Tingshan went abroad to develop his career. I entered a well-known domestic university and met and fell in love with Callum. We completely cut off contact, but I didn't expect that our first reunion after 13 years would lead to such an awkward situation. Just as I was thanking Ju Tingshan, a gentle cry came from the next ward. "Callum." The doctor said that the abdominal pain was caused by the rupture of the flavonoids. Fortunately, you came in time. Otherwise I would have died of pain. Callum's tone was full of pity. "My dear, I was wrong. Next time, I will definitely not drink, okay?" The flirting between the two tells of the madness of tonight. Looking at my daughter who had survived a near-death experience on the hospital bed, I felt it was extremely ironic. Fortunately, before Callum went home, I had already left my luggage at the security office, so I could just pick up my bag and leave as soon as my daughter finished the infusion. I don't want either such a miserable home or such a tainted relationship anymore. Until I packed my luggage and left with my daughter, Callum still didn't call me. I know that Callum is comforting his poor little lover at this moment, but I don't care anymore. I have already signed the divorce papers and placed them in the most conspicuous place on the dining table. I just need to wait for Callum to come back and sign, and then we can completely break up. If you have nowhere to go, you can come to my house. Ju Tingshan rolled down the car window and looked at me intently as he did in high school. There seemed to be a deeper meaning in his eyes that I couldn't understand. Maybe it was a revengeful mentality that made me carry my daughter into the car without thinking too much. Ju Tingshan specially instructed the servants to make a small bed for Sai Nyan, and I also expressed my sincere gratitude to him. But as soon as I took half a step into the room, I was blocked by Ju Tingshan against the wall. The familiar scent of gardenias wafted in my face, but Ju Tingshan looked down at me, his tone sounding a little aggrieved. "Why did you leave? We agreed to go to London to see the snow. Have you forgotten?" As he spoke, Ju Tingshan took out a familiar pink envelope from his pocket, his eyes already red. "You said you loved me. Why are you leaving?" I didn't expect that the letter that I thought was thrown away by Ju Tingshan was now held in his palm. "Didn't you throw away this letter?" Ju Tingshan was stunned for a moment, his handsome eyebrows twisted instantly, and he explained to me everything that happened back then. It turned out that in high school, a junior schoolmate who had a crush on Ju Tingshan wrote him a love letter. Unfortunately, the envelope she used was the same as mine. Even when Ju Tingshan said that he didn't like it, he wasn't talking to me. The misunderstanding from 13 years ago has been resolved, but things and people have changed, and the heartbeat of youth can only be buried in my heart forever. Thousands of words flashed through his mind, but when his eyes met Ju Tingshan's, they finally turned into an apology. However, before I could react, Ju Tingshan lowered his head and kissed my lips. "I'm back. Can we start over?" I couldn't help but be stunned, looking at my daughter not far away. Before I could say anything, Ju Tingshan blocked my lips again. "I don't mind that you've been married and had a daughter. I just know that you deserve a better life now." When I opened my eyes again, my whole body ached. I couldn't help but secretly sigh that Ju Tingshan was so energetic and had tormented me all night long. Ju Tingshan very considerately massaged my legs and shoulders and gave me a kiss on the forehead. "I'm going to cook. You were too tired last night. Go to sleep for a while." I nodded and lay back down again. But unexpectedly, the sudden ringing of the phone broke the beautiful atmosphere. The moment he saw the caller ID, Ju Tingshan snatched the phone away. Callum's growl was heard. "Elodie, where have you been with the child all night? Did I tell you that today is Mom's birthday? Why don't you come back and cook?" Apparently, Callum had completely forgotten about the fever he had last night. Looking at the baby lying in the cradle, my eyes became red. Having such a heartless and ungrateful father is a sorrow of longing. Having such an irresponsible husband is also my eternal nightmare. Callum's family is relatively well off, but ever since I failed to give birth to a son, my mother-in-law Yarrow Hui has not only ridiculed me for being useless, but has also dismissed the servants in the house for various reasons and forced me to work. Divorce is a complete relief for me and for my longing. Callum finished speaking. Yarrow Hui's harsh voice came from the other end of the phone. "Elodie, you are a piece of shit that your father doesn't love and your mother doesn't want. If you don't come back, I will let my son divorce you. My son is the chairman of the GU group. You can't give birth to a son for him. But there are plenty of women who can give birth to one for him." Yarrow Hui clearly scolded me for being useless and almost told others that Callum had a mistress, Aria, who is 50% similar to me. Just when I was about to say something back, Ju Tingshan, who had been silent the whole time, suddenly interrupted. "Elodie was too tired last night and slept at my place. If there's nothing else, I'll hang up now." Hearing the strange male voice, Callum yelled like crazy, "Elodie, who is that man and where are you now?" Yarrow Hui also shouted at Callum to divorce me. "You shameless woman, you actually cheated on my son behind his back. We in Callum's family don't want a daughter-in-law like you." However, Ju Tingshan simply pressed the power button to turn off the phone, and looked at me with a smile in his eyes. "Don't worry, I'll take care of everything." After breakfast, Ju Tingshan took me to the hospital to have Sign Yan checked again. When I got off the bus, I kept feeling a burning gaze behind me. When I turned around, I found Callum looking at me with gritted teeth, his tone full of anger. "Elodie, who is he? I haven't agreed to a divorce yet. How can you be with another man behind my back?" Seeing the anger in Callum's eyes, I couldn't help but sneer coldly. "Callum, I think you misunderstood. There really was nothing going on between me and brother Tingshan." As I spoke, I pulled my collar down to make sure Callum could clearly see every ambiguous red mark on my body. The familiar words almost made Callum collapse emotionally. He didn't seem to have thought that I, who had always loved him so much, would choose to betray him. "Elodie, you did this just to piss me off about Aria, right? You have nothing to do with this man, right?" At this moment, Callum was still forcing himself to comfort himself, waiting for my reply. But I hugged Ju Tingshan's arm and chuckled. "Of course, your relationship with Aria is the same as my relationship with Ju Tingshan, including what you and Aria did. Ju Tingshan and I also did the same thing. Callum, we've been married for 6 years. You wouldn't be so petty, would you?" I spoke in the calmest tone, completely extinguishing the last glimmer of hope in Callum's heart. Callum immediately yelled, "Elodie, we haven't divorced yet. You're cheating on me. Don't you know that?" Before Callum could finish his words, I interrupted him. "Aria during my breast period. Why don't I have the nerve to be with another man?" Callum in front of me with a critical look. "Besides, you know I want to divorce you, right? If we divorce and give my position to your little lover, wouldn't that be exactly what you want?" For me, If it's not because of missing someone, then there's no point in bothering about it if you don't love them anymore. But Callum, like Yarohui, is a man of color and doesn't take the longing to heart at all. Now he pretends to be reluctant to leave, for whom, perhaps the indifference and disdain in my eyes hurt Callum's eyes. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and explained, "Elodie, I have never changed my mind. You are the one I have always loved, but Mom wants a son so badly that I have to do this. You know, Aria is very similar to you when you were young." When saying this, Callum's eyes were full of affection, as if he was reminiscing about the past, but the affection that Callum showed at this moment made me feel extremely disgusted. "So, you're with her only because she looks like me and can give you a son?" After hearing what I said, Callum thought there was still room for recovery, and immediately assured me, "That's right, Aria is just a tool for you to give birth to a son. She is just a college student who has just entered the society. She is just playing around. There is no true love between them, Elodie. We have truly loved each other for 10 years. Please give me another chance, okay?" After saying that, I finally curled the corners of my lips coldly and looked towards the white figure in the corner not far away. That figure was none other than Aria herself. At this moment, she was biting her lips and glaring at me with resentment on her face. On the way to the hospital, I guessed that Callum would follow me, so I secretly sent a location message to Aria. Sure enough, in order to demonstrate her sovereignty, Aria secretly came over and listened to every word Callum said. Aria never dreamed that Callum's preference for her was all a show. "Callum, I hate you." Aria stamped her feet fiercely, then ran out wiping her tears. I crossed my arms over my chest, watching Callum's expression stiffen slowly, and said sarcastically, "Callum, I promised to give you one more chance." Hearing this, Callum's grey eyes finally brightened up, but the next second, my words put him in a dilemma. I slowly approached Callum and spoke word by word. "The condition is that you stay and accompany me today." The air was silent for a few seconds. Callum gritted his teeth and finally made up his mind to leave. "Elodie, Yaro is pregnant with my child. It is very likely to be a boy. This is very important to the Callum family. I can't just ignore it." After saying that, Callum chased in the direction Aria left without looking back, by Callum's choice, after all. From the moment I left Callum's house, I never thought about Yarrow and Callum getting back together. From his infidelity to his indifference to his daughter, and his current choice, I have not wronged Callum's infidelity in every aspect, but I didn't want to. Just when I suggested giving Callum another chance, the silent man next to me suddenly became frighteningly cold. "Elodie, you wanna leave me again?" Finally, I collapsed on the bed. Even my 10 toes had no strength left. And Ju Tingshan finally calmed down. I was away from Callum's house. Although Ju Tingshan said that he would take care of Sign Yan and Ms. food, clothing, housing, and transportation, I still wanted to support my daughter with my own ability. It just so happened that I majored in jewelry design in college, which happens to be the most dominant field of the Ju group. With Ju Tingshan's support, I successfully got the job and started a new life, before I married into Callum's family. I had been thinking about going to work to exact my revenge, but Callum never agreed to my going out to work, and in the end he despised me for being useless. Now, Ju Tingshan, who was standing behind me, saw me finish drawing the jewelry picture, and there was sincere appreciation in his eyes. Seeing this, I couldn't help but feel warm in my heart. "Today, I'm going back to Callum's house." Ju Tingshan's face suddenly darkened when he heard this. I knew he was worried that I would leave. But I held his hand and promised, "Be good, after you've dealt with Callum's issues, we can be together openly." Soon, Ju Tingshan and I drove to Callum's house, but the person who didn't want to open the door was Aria. I don't know what reasons Callum used to coax Aria into thinking of herself as the mistress of the Callum family. "Elodie, don't try to drive a wedge between me and Callum. Callum said those words only because he was afraid that you would get a divorce and divide the property. I am his true love." Looking at Aria's confident look, I couldn't help but curl the corners of my lips in sarcasm. As expected, he was a college student who had just entered society. Callum coaxed him into a state of confusion with just a few words, but now, I was too lazy to argue with Aria, so I walked straight into the villa. As soon as I stepped into the villa, Arya stopped me vigilantly. Elodie, if I remember correctly, you were the one who filed for divorce from Callum. Now you have the nerve to go back to Callum's house. You don't want to leave Callum, do you? Arya's eyes were sharp, and she wanted to pierce several holes in my body. I couldn't help but laugh. You're the only one who treats Callum as a treasure, but that's normal. Trash should be kept with the trash can. You two are quite a good match. Arya could hear the sarcasm in my words, and the expression on her face became hideous and distorted. But in just a moment, Arya suddenly smiled, with a proud look on her face. Elodie, Mrs. Goose Seat, I'm here. After saying that, without waiting for my reaction, Arya fell straight backwards. Just at this moment, Callum rushed over and saw Arya lying on the ground, holding her stomach and groaning in pain. Elodie, I know you are unhappy with Arya, but I also said that Yarrow Yarrow is pregnant with our Callum family's eldest son. You have gone too far this time. Callum held Arya, who was crying with tears in her eyes, in his arms and looked at me with anger and disappointment. That's ridiculous. What is Callum disappointed about? He doesn't think I still love him deeply, does he? Callum, how dare you think I would still like a cheating man like you to the point of harming a pregnant woman? Obviously, Callum didn't expect what I said to be so cruel, and the expression on his face froze instantly. Seeing this, Arya rolled her eyes and pulled Callum's sleeve, crying out in pain. Callum finally came to his senses and threatened me. Elodie, if you dare to hurt Yarrow Yarrow out of jealousy again, we will divorce. After waiting for so long, Callum finally lived up to my expectations and said this. I agreed without hesitation. Okay, let's get a divorce. The divorce agreement is still on the table. Mr. GU just needs to sign it, of course, if Mr. GU doesn't want to. I don't mind if I get jealous in the future and accidentally cause you to lose the eldest son of the Callum family. Callum heard the sarcasm in my words and his eyes fell on Arya's slightly bulging belly again. In the end, Callum gritted his teeth and signed the divorce agreement. Arya, who was acting pretentiously on the side, finally breathed a sigh of relief. Callum suddenly seemed to be very kind and wanted to give me the entire property of the GU group as compensation. He even promised. Elodie, we have been in love for 10 years, and I can't bear to let you suffer. Take this money first. One day, you and Sign will understand my helplessness. These words sounded so righteous that Arya, who was standing next to Callum, had a frozen expression on her face. But the next second after I received the divorce agreement, I sneered coldly. I told you, I don't want a penny of Callum's money because it's as dirty as you are. The dirty word turned into an invisible boomerang and stabbed Callum in the heart. Callum recalled his disgust and insults towards me in the past. He opened his mouth and tried to say something, but still couldn't utter a word. Just as I finished speaking, Ju Tingshan, who had been standing in the corner waiting silently, came over and hugged me in his arms. Arya just directed and acted out was naturally recorded in its entirety by Ju Tingshan. In front of the two of them, Ju Tingshan played the video of Arya deliberately falling down. Finally, he added, it's hard to judge Mr. Gu's vision, but I also want to thank Mr. GU for letting go today, which allowed Elodie and I to be together. After saying that, Ju Tingshan ignored Callum's gloomy face behind him, hugged me, got into the car and drove away, no matter how hard Callum tried. It seemed that the little white flower he was protecting in his palm was not as innocent as he thought, but I no longer care about these things. Callum and I received our divorce certificate. Ju Tingshan couldn't wait to take me to get the certificate. If it weren't for the fact that Elodie is still young and needs to be alone, I'm afraid Ju Tingshan would have held a grand wedding for me. However, to my surprise, when Ju Tingshan and I were on our way home, we saw Arya wearing a mask and fully armed following a strange man to a clinic. I was slightly startled, so I signaled Ju Tingshan to stop the car and followed him quietly. Arya, perhaps without any scruples, sat down as soon as she arrived at the clinic and started to question. I have already transferred 1 million to you. Are you sure this baby is definitely a boy? The staff of the clinic immediately assured, don't worry, Our agency can not only provide you with the best quality eggs, but also guarantee the gender of the fetus. After hearing the staff's assurance, Arya was completely relieved. It is obvious that this clinic hidden in a remote corner is doing illegal activities. However, there was more than one thing that shocked me. Arya also talked to the strange man next to her. "Don't worry, I'm a top student in the socialite training class. It's only a matter of time before I can take down Callum and bring down the GU group. But Callum is a good man. You promised me that you wouldn't hit him too hard." I thought Arya was a college student who just graduated and knew nothing, but I didn't expect that she had such a big ambition behind her. Seeing this, I curled the corners of my lips slightly, recorded the scene in front of me, and followed Ju Tingshan back home. However, when Arya's belly could no longer be covered, Callum still did not propose to give her a wedding. As the days passed, Callum was not in a hurry, but Arya couldn't sit still, so Arya took the initiative to plan a car accident and took the opportunity to win Callum's heart. While in the hospital, Callum saw Arya busying around for him while pregnant, and finally couldn't help but agree to give her a grand wedding. I happened to pass by to check on Elodie at this time. When Callum saw me for the first time, his eyes were full of guilt. "Elodie, I know we have been unable to let go of each other, but I owe Arya too much. I can't refuse her request for this wedding." Callum took it for granted that Arya had done everything for her, but he didn't think about how much I had given to him during the 10 years we had been together. Elodie was born prematurely and weak, and has been more than 5 months old. He has never shown any concern for her. Fortunately, I no longer have any emotions towards Callum, so I don't get stuck in the past. A second before leaving the hospital, Arya bumped into me head-on. Arya thought I was feeling wronged and sad, so she smiled smugly. "Elodie, as far as I know, Callum didn't give you the wedding of the century because your parents had such a terrible quarrel. But Callum agreed to me anyway. 10 years of relationship is enough. You still lost to me in the end." Facing Arya's provocation, I felt neither sad nor happy. I just raised my eyebrows and smiled. "Really? Then I would like to congratulate you too, this scumbag and this bitch, on your happy marriage in advance." Arya didn't see any disappointment on my face, so she could only grit her teeth in anger. I had already gotten in the car and went home with Ju Tingshan. I had no intention of joining the invitation sent by Callum. Ju Tingshan took the invitation, smiled and said, "Elodie, how can we be absent from such a good show?" Hearing this, I immediately realized what Ju Tingshan wanted to do, and couldn't help but smile back. Yes, Callum should pay for what he did. Half a month passed in a flash, and Arya and Callum's century wedding was finally held in the Harbour City restaurant in City A. I also took Ju Tingshan's arm and went to make the invitation. The moment he saw me, Callum finally showed a hint of surprise on his face, but his eyes fell on my and Ju Tingshan's hands, which were clasped together, and his face instantly turned cold. "Elodie, Yarrow Yarrow and I only invited you to our wedding." The words "I only invited you" seemed to pop out of Callum's mouth word by word, but I calmly met Callum's scrutinizing gaze and chuckled. "I forgot to introduce myself. This is my husband Ju Tingshan. You sent me an invitation. I think you don't mind if I bring my family to celebrate with you." Callum was struck by lightning when he heard what I said. "What, you actually got married to him, Elodie? Are you really going to throw away our 10-year relationship? If it weren't for the constant flow of guests around, I have no doubt Callum would have scolded me. But he is a cheating man and now he has married another woman in front of us. What qualifications does he have for me to remain a virgin for him? What's the point of 10 years of love? It's something that has long since rotted and stank. He doesn't want it, so should I hold it up as a treasure? How ridiculous." Callum was shocked by the indifference in my eyes, and finally he could only purse his lips and clench his fists. At this time, the wedding symphony sounded, and Yarrow Hui appeared holding Arya's hand. The moment she saw me, Yarrow Hui's face instantly turned cold, and she said in a sarcastic tone, "Hey, isn't this my former daughter-in-law Elodie? She was disliked by my son, but now she has the nerve to bring another man to the wedding to cause trouble. Isn't she ashamed?" Yarrow Hui's voice was not loud, but it was loud enough for the guests in the nearest circle to hear. When they heard this, everyone looked at each other and accused me of being shameless. Arya stood next to Yarrow Hui and was happy to hear everyone's accusations and insults against me, while Callum also acquiesced in everyone's insults towards me from beginning to end. Ju Tingshan was about to speak for me, but I stopped him first. I looked directly at Yarrow Hui's contemptuous gaze, shook the invitation in my hand and said with a smile, "What a coincidence. Your son asked me to attend this wedding. He also said that this wedding was just an explanation from the bride who was married by imperial decree, and that I was the only person he loved," Callum said before for everyone to hear right now. Callum and the others were obviously panicked when they heard this. "Elodie, we are husband and wife after all. Do you really want to make such a scene?" Callum didn't say much, but the guests present were all smart people. Seeing the panicked looks of several people, they quickly confirmed the truthfulness of my words. Everyone kept a casual attitude and watched the show quietly. I raised my eyes without saying anything, took Ju Tingshan's hand and sat in the corner. The little disturbance just now passed quickly, and the host took Callum and Arya to the big stage of the wedding venue. The love at first sight between this couple is enviable. Now, let us follow the big screen and witness this couple's sweet moment together. As soon as the host finished speaking, the picture on the big screen suddenly scrolled. However, the picture that appeared was not the sweet photo of Callum and Arya, but the picture of Arya in front of the clinic that day. "Callum's family wants a boy. I have no shortage of money. You just need to get the best eggs. I am the poster boy of the socialite training class. It is only a matter of time before I win Callum's heart and infiltrate the GU group. Callum is a good man. You have to defeat Callum's family, but you have to give Callum a chance to live for my sake." All the conversations were shown to everyone without reservation, and Arya's face turned paler. "Callum, this is fake, it's not real," Arya explained with red eyes, and suddenly looked at me. It was her. Elodie was jealous of me and deliberately faked the video. "Callum, don't be fooled by her." Arya pulled Callum's trouser leg and glared at me fiercely. However, the next second, the project manager of GU Group rushed over. "Boss GU, this is bad. GU Group's plan for the North City project has been stolen, according to the relevant surveillance. The person who stole the company's secrets was Mrs. GU standing in front of you. The company was affected by this and its stock price continued to fall. Makes Callum even more devastated is that a rival businessman uses the GU Group's business secrets to take away all of Callum's family resources in one fell swoop. The truth was right in front of him, and Callum originally wanted to lightly reveal it because of the baby in Arya's belly. However, he didn't expect that Arya would cause him to lose everything, and at the most critical moment of his car accident, the GU Group was already on the verge of collapse. Callum knocked Arya to the ground with one palm, and his voice was like the roar of a wild beast. "You bitch, I've given you everything I have. Why did you hurt me? Why?" Yarrow Hui, who had been longing for a grandson, screamed and fainted when she learned the truth. At this point, Arya no longer needs to hide. "Yes, I changed into Elodie South appearance to get close to you with a purpose. Callum, I really love you. For you, I didn't completely listen to them and ruin your reputation. But you, what did you do?" At this point, Arya's eyes became bloodshot with excitement. "Not only did you use me as a substitute for Elodie and a tool for having children, you even refused to promise me a wedding and secretly sought reconciliation with Elodie behind my back. Callum, the Callum family lost everything because of you. What right do you have to complain?" Callum finally couldn't control his emotions and punched and kicked Arya. Soon, Arya couldn't bear the pain anymore and fainted. A pool of bright red blood slowly spread from under her body. Now, even the little grandson that Callum family had been looking forward to the most is gone. The people watching the show were afraid that someone might die, so they hurriedly called the police. The police soon arrived and took Arya and Callum away for questioning. Because Arya was involved in multiple crimes, she was sentenced to death. Even the organization that designed the dirty industrial chain and the socialite training class were busted by the police. Callum had his reasons for taking action, so he was only detained for half a year. Callum's life was not easy after he was released. Not only was he burdened with a huge debt, but he also learned that Yarrow Hui could not withstand the blow and became mentally ill on the wedding day. She jumped from the 7th floor and completely realized her life. Callum lost everything and knelt outside Ju Tingshan's villa, crying and begging me to give him another chance. "Elodie, you said that we would be together forever in this life. At this point, Callum's eyes passed over me and stayed on the little ball behind me, his expression becoming more and more excited. "We have a lovely daughter, Elodie. Do you really want your daughter to be without a father soon after she is born?" Callum and I have been together for 10 years and he knows what words will touch my heart the most. I grew up in a family that favors boys over girls, and on the day I got engaged to Callum, my parents brought me out to Callum's family with a huge dowry, so Callum knew very well that I longed for family affection and a home. At this moment, Callum mentioned his daughter for the first time, trying to win me back, but my daughter is almost 1 year old now, and she can already crawl and talk. From beginning to end, it was not until he went bankrupt that he remembered to show concern for his daughter. I held my daughter's hand, pointed at the man kneeling on the ground not far away, and asked, "Elodie, do you like this uncle?" Elodie shook her head, turned around and threw herself into Ju Tingshan's arms, calling Dad in a baby voice. This scene made Callum completely emotionally broken. He never expected that his only flesh and blood would call another man Dad in front of him. "You see, even children know how to choose. Callum, I gave you a chance to reconcile, but you didn't cherish it. How dare you blame me now?" Hearing what I said, Callum seemed to lose all his strength and collapse to the ground, but there was still a hint of stubbornness in his eyes. "Elodie, you said he loves you, but he, like me, didn't give you a wedding. One day, he will be disgusted by the dirt you get from giving birth, and he will gag at the stretch marks on your belly. Accept the reality, Elodie. All men have the same nature. If you give up Ju Tingshan and be with me, I won't despise you anymore." However, as soon as Callum finished speaking, Ju Tingshan interrupted him coldly. "Mr. Gu, the wedding of the century that I will be holding for Elodie will be held in 3 days. I don't mind you coming to watch it. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you that kissing Elodie's stretch marks every night is our favorite little hobby." After saying that, Ju Tingshan and I hugged each other and left, ignoring Callum's stunned look. 3 days later, Ju Tingshan officially held a grand wedding for me. Sein Yan was the youngest flower girl at the wedding and witnessed her parents' grand wedding. It was half a year later that I heard news about Callum again. A good friend told me that Callum had committed suicide by cutting his wrists on my wedding day. Before he died, he specifically asked his friends not to tell me the news of his death. Until now, my friend couldn't help but want to hand me the confession that Callum wrote before his death. "Elodie, this is Callum's last wish." Before my friend could finish his words, I interrupted him coldly. "Callum's affairs have nothing to do with me anymore. There is no need for you to call me in the future. After all, you are his friends, not mine." After saying that, I hung up the phone without mercy. At this time, Ju Tingshan was holding my examination report with a look of surprise on his face. "Elodie, we have another baby." The word is enough to show that Ju Ting deeply loves Elodie as his own daughter. Elodie also hugged my calves and shouted for a younger brother. I touched my belly and felt a little worried, but the next second I fell into a warm embrace. "Elodie, true love embraces all of you. You don't have to worry. Not everyone is a beast like Callum." Under Ju Tingshan's meticulous care, I also let go of the knot in my heart from the past. On the day of delivery, Ju Tingshan held my hand and accompanied me in the ward with red eyes. After I gave birth, she took care of me in every possible way, taking care of my excrement and urine. I just gave birth to a baby. I haven't lost all my mobility. At least I can still go to the toilet. I knew Ju Ting deeply loved me, but I didn't know he would go to such lengths for me. Ju Tingshan's face was full of grievance. "Elodie, you've suffered so much for me, and carrying shit and urine is nothing." After having the baby, Ju Tingshan and I's relationship not only did not break down, but became even closer. Looking at the figures wearing aprons busy in the kitchen, and the scene of an adult and a child playing around the dining table, I think the happiest moments are just like this. Very nice.